So what's up with Taoist ritual? And why would anyone want to become a Taoist priest? These are some of the questions I get from students, and they're good questions. And so today I want to talk about the Taoist liturgical tradition. So a liturgy is a fancy word for ceremony, ritual, chanting. I guess here in the West, what we think of as sort of religious trappings. And I want to dive into it a bit and talk from my experience anyways, my exposure to this side of things, where ritual and ceremony and chanting, all that stuff, where it fits into the overall Taoist scene, as it were. And I think the answer is pretty interesting. I think it comes down to qi, to energy. The Taoist tradition is rich and full of all sorts of stuff. It's a really tricky thing to define, and maybe not all that important to try. But one of the expressions of the Taoist tradition is ritual. So having temple settings with chanting, ceremony, and whatnot. And my own initial exposure to that was through my first teacher, and I went there for Tai Chi. But they also at the school where I was at, they also offered training in meditation and Neigong and other stuff, as well as you guessed it, ceremony, chanting, and ritual. Yeah, and so I remember when I first heard Taoist chanting, I went for a Tai Chi class, and there's a group chanting away. To be honest, I thought it was a little weird. I was I guess about 20, 21 at the time, and I think that sort of expression of that sort of religious or spiritual expression, I thought it was a little strange. I mean, what am I getting myself involved in? Is this some sort of weird cult? When are they going to break out the Kool-Aid? But they're good people, and I enjoyed the Tai Chi practice, and so I eventually gave the chanting a try, and it was really fun. I think here in the West, we have a sense of ritual. We look down on ritual. Ritual is seen as sort of an empty shell with no substance. The real stuff, ritual, if something is ritualized, it's sort of seen as a negative, right? And so it was tricky. It was a tricky process for me to engage in this stuff, until I realized it was just a lot of fun. It was, I guess it's the equivalent of going to church and singing, on Sunday with the choir, right? But through my first teachers, I was trained in how to take care of the shrine. So you have a shrine with a deity on it. This particular shrine was Guanyin, and we. I learned how to open the shrine, close the shrine, clean it, put fresh fruit on it twice a month, the new and the full moon, how to take care of the incense bowl and keep the lamps full of oil, and all this stuff. And so I learned about that, and then I learned about the ceremonies, and you get dressed in your the team colors, as it were, the Taoist robes, and learn how to do the ceremony, how to use there's various instruments you use. One of them I actually brought for this talk. This is called a wood fish, the muyu, and it's used to keep time when you're chanting. When you have a group of people chanting, you bang on this thing, and it keeps everyone in the same place. And there's other instruments you can use. And then the ceremonies themselves, got involved with those. And the first thing I realized about the ceremonies was how physical it was. They're long, like you can easily do a chant in over an hour, and some of them go for days. And it's very physical. There's a lot of you're on your knees the whole time, and my teachers, you know, no cushions. You're on the hardwood floor. And there's bowing, there's all these different interactions that happen. It's very physical. The second thing I realize is there is a sense of there's an interesting feeling that happens when the whole group comes together in a coordinated chant. It's very easy. You sort of lose yourself in a good way, and you just become part of the group, and that's an important characteristic of Chinese cultivation. You know, here in the West, our moral framework is generally centered around freedom and individualism, the rights of the individual. And I think in China it's quite different. Harmony is how they organize their moral framework in terms of harmonizing yourself with the group, with your family, with your friends, with your community, and understanding how to be in harmony with the people in your life. And that goes all the way back to Confucius, of course. So chanting is a spiritual thing. It's a way to let go of the self and be in harmony with other, like literally in terms of harmonizing your voices, right? And creating a group energy, right? That can be quite transformative. My first teachers, you know, for them, what the words you're chanting were not important. I was chanting in Cantonese, and my my Cantonese is not very good, and the words, the meaning of the words was not important. I mean, they're important at later levels, but the most important thing for the Taoist approach to chanting is the physical experience. Chanting is fast. There are slow style of chanting as well, but even with those, it involves regulating the breath and the movement of the diaphragm in a very specific way, right? It's a very physical thing. You're regulating the body, you're regulating your breathing, and you're clearing your mind. When you go fast, right? When the wood fish here really gets going, and you're really going for it, you have no time to think. All you can do is just you look at the characters and you're boom, 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 boom. And so you do an hour of that, and you come out of it feeling fresh, clean. It's a really incredible experience, very peaceful. I remember after the chants, I would feel tired from all the kneeling and whatnot, but very, very calm, very, very calm. And so that was my first exposure to the ceremonial side of the ritual side of the Taoist tradition. There's the Taoist approach to ritual is distinctive from, speaking generalizations here, but is fairly distinctive from other religious traditions, and even within religious traditions in China itself. And there's overlap historically. There has been a line, and I don't think it's ever been a very clear line, but it's a line that Taoists have tried to negotiate between the Taoist tradition, liturgical tradition, and the temple tradition, and local traditions. So local traditions, historically, were a huge presence within Chinese spiritual landscape, and a presence which doesn't often make its way into books or into the history books, as it were, right? It's sort of forgotten about because it's a religion of the people, of the Lao Bai Xing, the peasants, right, of each village would have a temple or a shrine, and part of their daily experience was, part of their daily life was participating in those rituals that would be performed at the temples. Now, my sense with local religion, and it's very regional. It varies regionally and historically, right? So again, big generalizations here, but generally, I think for a lot of sort of the peasants, there is a word that's very important to help understand why they participate in these religions, and that is ling. And ling means to be efficacious, to be effective, right? And so generally for peasants, they're poor and they work hard. It's not always an easy life. And for them, having these spirits or deities there, we're seeing, they could petition them for help, right? Help us have a good harvest. Help us have food. Help us have harmony in our town, And I think a lot of and that carries on into modern Chinese life, right? If you're trying to pass the Gaokao, the university entrance exam, I know a lot of students that go to various temples and offer incense and for help, to help them pass the examinations, or help them get rich, help them have babies, whatever it is, right? And so you'd have these different shrines, which, and one shrine would be more ling, more efficacious than another, and that was sort of, that was the place, for a large extent, that was the place of these temples in daily life. Of course, the ritual specialists of the local temples would also be involved, with various life event ceremonies, such especially say a funeral ceremonies. They would put on that, and so they had an important part to play. So where do the Taoists fit into all this, right? Well, first of all, there's the line between Taoism and the local religion is a tricky one to define, especially in the last few hundred years. It's really gotten blurred, and now I would say it's almost identical. For example, there is a village in northern China which I know fairly well, a small village, a couple thousand people, and I know them fairly well, and they have a temple, and they have a temple to a deity who is quite popular in that part of that region. And the temple is a tu jin, a tu jin temple. So a jin in Chinese literally means to enter. And so that means, and so a way of describing how big a temple is how many jins it has. How many entrances does it have? How many courtyards, basically, right? So you have the front door, and you go in the front door, and there's a courtyard, and then there's another door which enters into an inner courtyard where the actual deity is, right? So it's a tu jin temple. Anyways, so modest, not very big, but more than just a roadside shrine or whatnot. They have some ceremonies there. It is active to an extent, and it serves the local village. And if you look at, I remember when I was there, I looked at the front door, and they have a plaque at the side of the door that says they are a member of the Chinese Taoist Association. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'm fairly interested in Taoist stuff, and I know the Chinese Taoist Association, and I saw that. Well, okay, interesting. And the interesting thing is that they weren't Taoists. To put it bluntly, I know them, and I know the temple, I know the village, and it's local religion. However, my sense is, I'm not sure, my sense is that there is no overarching association that I'm aware of for local religion. And so local religion often gets subsumed under the banner of Taoism. And this is it's just for administrative reasons, really. If you have a temple, then you want to be official. You want to have an official institution that recognizes you and takes care of you. And so by these local local temples by joining the Chinese Taoist Association, because it makes the most sense. It's not Buddhist, it's not Confucian. Okay, so Taoism is probably the closest. It gives them that institutional protection. So the line gets very blurry, right? And so what I thought I would talk about today is, so what is Taoist ritual? And how is Taoist ritual different from, say, just local religion, the ritual of local religion? And I don't have a lot of experience, right? So or expertise in this field. And so all I can do is just share my own experiences and my own thoughts. This is not the truth. And if you do know, if you do have comments or corrections for me, please use the comments below, and I'd love to hear them. But I think one place to start is the all-important place of energy, of qi, within Taoist religion, Taoist lineages of practice. Energy is so important for the Taoist worldview and their practice and the way they go about doing things, right? So it's less of a philosophical distinction between the two traditions, but it's more this more understanding and appreciation of qi. And what I mean by that is, for Taoists, generally, a ceremony, a ritual, is a place where you're working with qi. It's qigong. It's qi practice. You're harnessing and deploying energy, qi, and this energy is used for the good of the self, for self-transformation, but also, probably more importantly, for the good of the group, the community, and sometimes even for the good of the state, or maybe in modern parlance we could say global, for the global situation. In other words, by supplicating and transforming maybe more negative energies, you can create positive, good vibes, positive energies, and project those out into the community, into the broader community, and as a means of service, as a means of helping and being of service to the greater community. And I think that's a great reason to become a Taoist priest. You know, a lot of it's service. For a lot of Taoist priests, they are in practical ways in service to a community. Just like we'd have a priest or a minister in a church here in the West, similar. You know, they would help with medicine for local community, helping people. You know, if you had an injury, you know, poor community, and you have some sort of health issue, you can almost always go to a local Taoist temple, and they'll have a free clinic there where you can get healed. Because medicine in traditional Chinese, in the old days, getting a doctor was expensive, and there's all sorts of stuff, you know, funeral rites, all these different kinds of rites, and counseling, guidance, all this sort of stuff was there. But the ceremonies were even more than just that. They were about affecting and rebalancing the energies in a local community, right? And a way of doing that is the ceremony itself builds up qi, if you're doing it right, and then the head priest would have an external altar, an external religious area that would be set up by the ritual master, and there'd be certain things that would be done there. But really, that was kind of just for the local people, the peasants, to kind of give them something to look at. The true altar was inside the body. So for a Taoist priest, when they go through this ceremony, there are points in the ceremony where it looks like they're taking a break, you know, smoking a cigarette, whatever, but they're not actually taking a break. Their eyes are closed, and they're going inside their own body and working inside using various practices of self-transformation, powerful Neigong and Qigong practices, secret stuff. That would be the essence of the ceremony. That would be the most important part, what they are doing. And that was a way of tuning into the energies in the area, and whatever the the goal of that ceremony was to make it happen, right? It's really fascinating. And I think that's probably the main distinction between, say, going to a temple associated with a local religion and a Taoist ceremony. Of course, that's a big generalization, right? But there's definitely something there. And I think it's really fascinating the way that happens. This sense of, okay, we need to work with and balance the energies of a location for the good of the people. In the old days, in China, Taoist tradition there was 3 vehicles. And the lowest vehicle, the first vehicle, was doing good deeds. And this is like, helping little old ladies cross the street, maybe donating money. And what that does is it sets up momentum of virtue. It sets you kind of on the right path, right? You get sort of used to doing these good deeds. You do however many a day, and there's different practices you can do with it. And the idea of hidden virtue, so you don't want to tell anyone else that you've done the good deed. That kind of I donated, whatever, $1,000 to whatever, then that the merit from that act will you deplete it, right? So it's got to be hidden virtue. And that's the first vehicle. Second vehicle is ritual, is the ceremonial stuff, right? And that was seen as an important part of Taoist cultivation, and it's the middle vehicle. And then the upper vehicle was methods of self-transformation. So this is where internal alchemy or various systems of Neigong and whatnot would fall into, right? And so the middle vehicle, it's important. It's a big part of the tradition, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really interesting elements to it. And so it's definitely not for everyone. There's a lot of people that are just interested in the self-cultivation stuff, and that's fantastic. That's what I teach, and I love it. But being part of a community, 家道, the Taoist family that's associated with the temple, and participating in these rites and rituals, it can be really fun. It can be a very transformative experience and a very positive experience for a community, right? So if that's interest for you, go check it out. I think it is available. It's tricky to find, but I'm sure you can find it. And if not, then it's not necessary. It's just one expression of the wonders of the Taoist tradition.